Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Hosim Q905 brushless 1/16 scale Truggy. Now if this car looks a bit familiar, or this design, that's because this is a rebranded Zinlahong Q905. I happen to have a Q903 which looks essentially identical to this. Even the body, it's just a different color. And you'll see that in the table review portion at the end where I compare it. So I put the table review at the end, as I just said, so you guys can check out this car, because even though this is a Zinlahong, this has a lot of added upgrades and perks from Hosim, who sells this on Amazon. So even though this is going to be more expensive, this has a lot of extra things to it. That's why I was interested in checking this guy out. So I'll be going over a lot of those extra perks during the drive review here. But if you want to see what all comes with it, stick around to the end for that table review, because it comes with some paddle tires, which all this stuff I'm going to tell you really quickly here is not included with the original Zinlahong version. It has oil-filled shocks, which I didn't notice at the first when I was starting the table review. So these are all oil-filled. They look just like the regular friction shocks, but they're oil-filled. I think the car may have just turned itself off. I had it on for a while. It does come with 2 batteries, and it's a Velcro strap to hold them in place, and that's running in parallel with a little connector. So you're doubling your capacity and your runtime, but you're not doubling your voltage. It comes with a LiPo bag, just a whole bunch of things that it comes with this extra compared to the original version. So let's see here. I think I need to probably turn it back on, and I do. We'll take it out here and drive it, and again I'll go over some of those features again. And you hear the little ESC music there, and there we go. Let's take it out here and drive it around. Again, this will be just like my Q903 in terms of performance, but the biggest, one of my biggest gripes with the Q903 was how bouncy it was on those friction shocks, and this having oil-filled shocks ought to take care of that problem. Whoa, that is really fast. I've got, whoa, flipped over. I've got it on the highest rate. There's a high and a low. Let's try it on low, because man, that really, that's why it's got a wheelie bar on the back there. I don't remember needing the wheelie bar really on the 903, but it's been so long since I drove it that I don't really remember too well, because this is the same brushless motor and same battery, though we're running on double capacity, so it might have a little more kick, I guess, on the higher, a little more amps on the higher capacity pack, but it's the same voltage, so it should be about the same. That's on your lowest rate, guys, and there's those 2 white LEDs on the front, just like my Q903, though. If I remember correctly on that, I did have 1 bad LED on my Q903, but they're just fine on this one. Let's go ahead and kick it up to that highest rate. I got the steering dual rates all the way up, so I got the max turning radius, and so far the steering trim seems to be fine. I'm going to ease into the highest rate. There's your highest rate. If you floor it, boy, it just, I mean, there's it riding that wheelie. Look at that. That's great. I did not remember riding a wheelie like that on the Q903. Wow, that's got a ton of punch. I'm going to back. I'm trying to keep my back to the wind. There's a ton of wind coming at my back. Even though I use an external mic, I don't want a whole bunch of wind noise. So I'm going to back up here. And that way you also don't have to look at the cemetery behind me. I'm trying to get on this rock lane. Yeah, that's booking. It's got really good power on this brushless. To me now, the brushless kits are getting so cheap, it just doesn't make much sense to use brushed motors on a lot of stuff unless you're really bargain basement price stuff. This is great. Whoa! And like all Zinlahong manufactured stuff, you know Hosim's selling this under their name. They're pretty fairly well built. Good composite plastics, metal dog bones. And again, these oil-filled shocks are making a huge difference, because this is not nearly as bouncy as I recall the 903 being. Oh, this is great. Really nice. And those paddle tires that I mentioned at the beginning, you'll see that in the table review at the end if you stick around. I didn't put them on, but I'll show you them in the bag. That's going to be really good if you are driving around really loose, sand, or maybe some really fine loose dirt. Those paddle tires are going to help. The oil-filled shocks are making a big difference. It's got, you know, all full ball bearings inside like you'd expect. There's also that LiPo bag, so you can store your batteries in there, and especially when you're charging the batteries. Oh, and it has that was one other thing. It has an extra body. There's no extra body when I got the Zinlahong one. Just a nice clear Lexan body. So if you don't like this body, or if you damage it, you can always paint the other one, or you can swap between the two. And you can go with whatever color scheme you want on that clear body. So extra body, LiPo bag, oil-filled shocks, 2 batteries in parallel, paddle tires. That's a lot of stuff with this. I will include a purchase link to Amazon where you can get this. It took me 1 day to get this, and when I ordered it, 1 day. But at max, you're looking at 2 days. If you order the Zinlahong version, you're going to get it for less, with a lot less stuff if you ordered it from China. But you're probably looking at maybe a month, and maybe more in the United States here with the delay on just things getting imported right now because of COVID. So I think whenever the Zinlahong usually sold for around $100, I think. I don't know what it sells for now, if it's even available from, let's say, someone like Banggood. Oh, it flipped. See, the range is always pretty good on these, and I have no problems now, but I just flip it. But while I'm walking over to get it, I'll just simply say again, if you're looking to buy this, I really like this. I knew I would, just based on the Zinlahong, the 903. I think it's a 150 price range. This is on Amazon for all the extra perks this comes with. I don't think it's too bad, being that it is brushless. You could probably save $50 if you went and bought the 905 or 903 from Banggood or Tom Top or someone overseas. But again, you're going to wait a long time to get it. If there's any problems, who knows what kind of customer service you're going to get in terms of, are they going to replace it? Are they going to, just shipping time and a cost. So what I'm getting at is, obviously, I think $50 more for this buggy with all those extra things is totally fine in my book. I don't think that's a bad price at all. And this is not going to be junk like the Zinlahongs. They usually hold up pretty well, pretty good bashers. Oh, I don't remember. I know I did a top speed on the Q903. If I will try my best to put some cards in here to some of those videos, and we can get the top speed test on this guy. I just don't want to, I just can't remember what that was. I thought it was somewhere in the 30-mile-per-hour range, but I'm just guessing here. So I'll try to include the links to that, because this is going to be just the same. In fact, it almost seems like this might be faster. I just don't remember these Zinlahong riding wheelies like this guy when you really punch it. Let's do that here, and I punch it. Look at that. I mean, it will sometimes ride such a wheelie, a powerful wheelie, that it just goes past the wheelie bar. So I recommend that when you're driving this, in the highest rate, don't punch it all the way off the go. Ease into it a little bit, and you still, look at that. It's really fast, guys. I don't mind the flipping over some because I think it's fun. Obviously, if it flips over really far away from you, then that's going to stink, because you got to walk all the way there and get it. But this is fantastic little car. Really, really nice. Well worth the money, in my opinion. If it was just a car for $150, then I would say that's way overpriced. But for all those extra perks and tires and extra battery and all that stuff, I think it's a darn good deal. But this might be a car that might be good for a lot of people to just go in the low rate. Because when I go to the low rate and punch it, I just it barely got off the ground, the front wheels. I'm not going to flip this near as much. And those oil-filled shocks are working really well. So if you were to drive this around, you're not going to flip. Even though it's flipping a lot for me, the friction shock version is going to flip even more, because it's just so bouncy. It would just, when I would drive the Zinlahong, and if you watch the other videos where I was driving it out there with my old favorite flying spot near my old house, you could just see it bouncing as it was driving along. It didn't really affect performance. It just looked kind of goofy. This one I'm not seeing that because of the oil-filled shocks are dampening the little bumps on the road and stuff and absorbing that properly. So I'm gonna just do there's a little run there I'm gonna do there in the low rate. Easier to keep under control in low rate. That's still decent. Now that wouldn't be a good top speed on brushless if that was your highest rate, but it's still not bad and much easier to control. So if you got a younger one, someone just starting out in the hobby, that lower rate is going to be ideal for them because it's going to be much easier to control this car. Especially all kids are going to be prone to flooring it right off the go, and they're going to flip it in the highest rate. If you do it here, look, it's fine. You need to be an experienced driver in the highest rate, especially on these smaller cars, since they get a little squirrely. I'm going to go to the highest rate now, just ease into it. See, that's quick. I don't see anything quicker than that on this design. A 1/16 scale is just going to be hard to keep under control because they can just get away from you. It's easier in the larger scale cars to control those on the higher speeds. This one, anything faster than this is just going to be difficult. It's going to get really bouncy and squirrely on you, where it's going to want to take off and you'll lose control or lose traction with the road. Yeah, these Chinese brands, Xinlehong, HBX, PX Toys, those are my three favorite brands that are lesser known. You're not going to go to your hobby shops here in the United States and find these. Nothing against the hobby shops, I fully support them. And they're selling, you know, their deals are the Traxxas and, you know, Losi and Red Cat and all those brands, and those are really good brands. But my point on this little soapbox here is, for your average person, there's no reason to go out and buy a Traxxas Rustler or something that's a little bigger than this, but something that's, you know, might cost you way more money. Because yeah, you can go to the hobby shop and buy parts for it, but these Xinlehong parts are really easy to find online if you're willing to wait a little bit to get them. But you're just saving so much money on these, and they're just fine. Now, if you're someone who's hardcore in the hobby, or you're you know, into competition, well, yeah, you want to go with those. But for someone who's just gonna bash around in their backyard, maybe just starting out, maybe especially if you're in a budget, you know, there's no reason to save up for those. This is perfectly fine. This is not a piece of junk. It's not going to just fall apart on you or the gears strip out. Because Xinlehong is a huge model manufacturing molding company. They have quite a bit of experience with these, and you know, these are pretty good. You know, they're, I'm not saying that they're at the same level of Traxxas, but they're gonna be fine for your backyard bashers, guys. I guess you guys have a pretty good idea on the run of this, I think. And again, if you want to see some more bashing of this car without oil-filled shocks, just on friction shocks, then be sure to check out that Q903 review and the speed run I did with that, which will give us an idea on the top speed of this one being the identical. I mean, it's literally identical down to the fact that the only difference in this car is they're running 2 batteries and this has an oil-filled shock. So this is really good. I really, really like it a lot. So I'll try to link the cards to this stuff in the video so you guys can go check it out. But if I forget to for some reason, just go back to my channel or search for it on my channel and you'll be able to find those videos. All right, guys, that wraps up the dry review portion for the Hosim Q905. Now, if you're interested in seeing all the stuff that comes with it, stick around now and we'll go over to that table review. So I'll be right back. Okay, guys, let's go ahead and take a look at what all comes with the Hosim Q905. Now, I've not filmed the drive review yet, but I plan on putting this at the end of the video, so I may be repeating some things that I'm certain mentioned during the drive review. But this is a table review. If you stuck around for this portion, you can see those extra perks that came with this. Because as I'm sure I mentioned probably 20 times during the drive review, this is a rebranded Xinlehong 900 series. This looks basically the same as the Q903. Let me show you. This is the Q905, they call it here on the box. On the, let's see, here's the Q905. which is this one right here. But you can see the Q903 is right over here. And if you have been a subscriber to my channel for a while, then you're familiar with that I have the Q903. Let me show you that right here. And this is identical to this car. I'm not sure why they call this a 905 on theirs. Like maybe that's Zinlahog's 905 look like that too, I guess. It looks pretty much identical as far as I can tell. Just a different painted body style, that's all. I mean, the body style is the same, just different paint. But anyway, this is the same buggy as the Zinlahong. It's just Hosim is rebranding this guy. But as I've mentioned in the past, Amazon sold products like this tend to come with some extra perks that you wouldn't get if you bought this through Banggood or some foreign website where you are going to buy the Zinlahong branded version, because obviously Zinlahong makes this. You're going to pay less, but you won't get as many of those extra perks, which we'll discuss in this video. So one of the cool things is you get these paddle tires. I think this would be good for driving in sand and such. So you don't get that with the original Q903, 905, you know, from Zinlahong. So you get those. You get a LiPo bag to store your batteries in. So especially when you're charging it, if there's any kind of a problem, you don't have to worry about having a fire. And you get 2 of the LiPo batteries. These are 1000 milliamp 2-cell or 2S LiPo batteries with a Dean's plug or T plug on them. So I'll explain here in a moment why you get 2, because the original Zinlahong just comes with 1 battery pack inside of it. But what they've done with this one is they've given you inside the bag of goodies here, along with just a single charger, unfortunately, they've given you a parallel T-plug adapter in there. And what this does is it lets you hook up 2 of your packs into one. So it's a 2-in-1. And then they have this Velcro on the bottom of the car, and I'll show you underneath it. I already have the body clips off of it. It allows you to put both of your battery packs inside of here and Velcro it into place, and then you can plug both of those in, and what you're doing is you're not doubling the voltage. It's not series. You're not going to harm anything. You're just doubling the capacity up to 2000 milliamp hour, so you're essentially doubling your drive time. And again, that's something that Zinlahong doesn't do by default. Otherwise, a lot of stuff is the same. One other thing they did include is they give you an extra body. And again, Zinlahong doesn't do that to my knowledge. You could paint this. I think this would be great. Paint it orange or green, some of my favorite colors. Color this, and of course, when you do, you want to spray paint the underside so that if you scuff it and you trash it, it doesn't immediately chip the paint off. So make sure you remember that. You can paint it however you want. Then you got 2 bodies along with your original one right here. So the extra perks again, the extra body, the 2 battery packs, the parallel adapter to let you put it in with the Velcro so you can run this car potentially twice as long, the LiPo pack, and then I don't know if I said it again, but the paddle tires, which are really, really cool that they included those. Otherwise, you've got the same brushless motor, your receiver and ESC combo in here, 2-in-1 there, your little, I'm sure this is probably going to be well, I know it is a 3-pin servo in here. You just have friction shocks as far as I can tell on these. They don't feel like these are oil filled. I know that they weren't on the Zinlahong version. They look identical. Sometimes there's a version of these shocks. I don't think so, but let me feel against it. Maybe these are oil filled. So I don't want to tell you guys wrong. I could pop it open, but ooh, I think these might be oil filled. So that may be the case, because you can hear how that springy sound, and then look at this. So I actually take that back. I think these are oil filled. Zinlahong makes a shock that looks just like the friction shocks here, but actually have the components inside that allow them to be oil filled. And I assumed these were just friction shocks, but after now feeling these, I can tell you these are actually, there's oil in these, I'm pretty sure. There may not be a ton, but they're not doing that real squeaky sound. I'll have to check the Amazon listing to see if they actually advertise that. I have a Legendary branded Zinlahong truck up on the top of my shelf over here, and I have a Soyi branded version of the same truck, and they also, Soyi does this thing where they give you the extra battery and the Velcro strap in there, you know, doing that same sort of upgrade to a Zinlahong product. But Legendary used those oil-filled shocks, and I didn't think that they were at first until I realized they're much softer and they look identical to the Zinlahong shocks. So when you look around on Banggood, where you can get a lot of those Zinlahong parts, you see they do sell these oil-filled shocks that look identical to the friction version. And what they've done is they just change a few inside parts and they make it a friction shock, and then they can swap those out and convert this right over to an oil-filled. Really simple. So these seem to be oil-filled, so that's another upgrade. Again, I hadn't looked at this closely. I've not done the driver review, so I'm sort of looking at this as if you guys would as well. So keep that in mind. So it looks like you got oil-filled shocks, paddle tires, LiPo battery, 2 batteries, 2 bodies. You're getting an awful lot. And as you can see here, here is the Q903 on the front of the Hosim manual. And they just have a little card in here about, you know, thanking you from buying from Hosim. And otherwise, it's just like the Zinlahong instructions. There, I could see no mention inside of here of anything about using that parallel connector, but they do mention the part in the parts list there. I'll go back to, let's see, where was that? Right in here. They show it as a T-plug connector. They don't exactly tell you what it does, but. And the instructions does have like an exploded view and some, you know, the diagrams on how to take this apart, and if you take it apart, how to get it back together, and that's always important. Though it's obviously not any kind of step-by-step instruction, it's just an exploded view on how to do that. And they mention how to connect a wheelie bar in the very back. Let's see, I don't make sure they don't mention the battery here in the back, which I didn't catch. I got a housefly flying around here. No, that should be, oh, bumped the camera. That should be all the stuff there. So again, this is just a rebranded Zinlahong. They just added a bunch of perks, which is very common. Let's see, is there anything else inside the bag I didn't mention here? You do get that wheel wrench and some extra wheel nut and some extra body clips in there along with that charger. And then here is a bracket if you just want to use the single battery. Then this would go in there, and if you don't want to mess with the Velcro, because the Velcro is obviously going to be, may not be tight enough for the single battery. It's probably okay, but it's meant to be tightened down with the extra battery in there. You could swap this out if you're just going to be fine with running the single battery, because you really won't notice any difference in the drive speed or anything like that. It's just going to be a difference in the drive time on that guy. So not a whole lot else. If you want, if I remember, I'll link to the table view on the Zinlahong where I probably went a little more in depth, because everything's identical, and the driver view of that, so you can compare the two. They're going to be identical. It's just that if you get this from Amazon and you're in the United States, I don't know if they sell this in Canada or the UK, I can't tell you that, but you're going to get it in 2 days if you got Prime. And if you have any problems, you can send it back, and you get all these extra perks. So I think it's well worth it, even though this is going to cost probably $50–$60 more. Potentially, it may not be that big of a difference now compared to what the Q903 was whenever I received it a couple years ago from Banggood. But again, you have to deal with the customer service issues over there, or they're going to replace something if it has a problem. They may give you a discount. That's about it. And you have to wait a month to get shipped to you probably. You know, right now with all the delays in the importing due to COVID and whatever, it's going to be really slow to get stuff. So you're just way better off getting this one here, as long as you are okay with paying more with all the extra stuff you get. And then here's the controller, just like the Zinlahong. You got your power button, you got a low and a high. So if you don't want to drive this in the highest rate because maybe you're a beginner or you're a younger person, then put it in low. You've got your servo reversing here. If if for some reason the steering's turning the wrong direction with the wheel. And then you've got your steering trim on the left and your steering dual rates. This will let you select the diameter, the radius, the turning radius. I always want to say the wrong thing. So you want it all the way up, but if it's peeling out or you're doing too many donuts or just going in circles too easily, then you want to reduce this to where your wheels are not turning as much with the steering. And then you have your steering here, nice foam grip, your forward and your reverse and your brake if you tap it. Takes a few AA batteries. Here looks like it takes 3. Exact same traditional Zinlahong controller. There's absolutely no difference. So this may have been a bit of a sloppy table view, but I didn't feel like it was necessary to go into every little detail with this car because you can see it all in the other table review. It's got the metal dog bones, just the typical molded but composite plastics that you expect from Zinlahong. It does have the 2 white LEDs here that go in the bumper, which power off the receiver, and those will come on with the battery and give you some headlights there on the front of this buggy. So again, I'll try to link to that other video so you guys can check that out, where I go probably a bit more in depth on the other car and the driver view for that one. All right, guys, that should wrap up the review for the Hosim Q905 or Q903, whatever model. They're all the same. If you're new to the channel, be sure to consider subscribing, and while you do, click the bell so you're notified every time I upload a new video. Then you get notified. And as always, guys, have a wonderful day.
The power of the dark side.